One thing we can do to think about people who are targeted by conscious and unconscious bias is to remember that it actually exists, because often when you're a person in that position and you try to tell people that this is happening to you, there's a lot of denial. So understanding is the first point, and just being vocal about it and understanding. And then it's being aware that, you know, we are trained in non-violent direct action, and the people who are coming into our action spaces haven't been trained. And it's so we have to be aware that if we're in an action, then you don't put stickers on people who haven't been trained, so that they're not targeted as, oh yes, you're part of Extinction Rebellion, I'm going to arrest you. And I think another thing is that if you can give them as much information as you can about the actual situation that they're coming into, because this is not usual, it's not a situation, you know, we're inviting the police to come and arrest people, and they need to know that that's happening and that there will be people putting themselves up for arrest willingly, and you may be seen as one of those people, and there are certain things you can do to make sure, or to make it likely that you're not going to be arrested. So just to give a lot of information, I think, is helpful. Yeah, so it's not a secret that unconscious bias and conscious targeting of people is part, you know, it's part of life, it's in our systems, and it's institutional, so the police are not going to be an exception to that. So it's just, again, that level of awareness. You know, we're having good experiences with the police, but also this is part of society, so we've got to be honest, I think. I mean, the police really on the whole have been very, very good, but we have to recognise that they're overstretched and they're under-resourced, and then they're in a situation where they're being told to clear a site, and that is a high pressure situation. And then we have to then pair that up with the unconscious bias exists, and conscious targeting of people exists in the whole of society. So the police force are not going to be an exception to that. And so if you put those two things together in a high pressure situation, then you're going to see some incidents happen, and that's why we have to be aware and on the ball as much as we can to try to de-escalate any situations that we see. People who are wandering into our actions, who are not trained, they need to have a level of information about what this situation is, you know, that people are volunteering to be arrested, and if you do certain things, it's very likely that you will be. And we need to not, you know, give people stickers that makes it look like they're part of Extinction Rebellion and that they know everything that's going on.
So there's lots of different situations that might need de-escalating, and what is the common approach across all of those is that it's done in a really non-violent way that's in line with all XR's values. And so the way we've been trying to remember that for ourselves and for everyone new coming into the movement is we've been using this acronym of BREATHE. So it's about us, the way we go into the situation and the energy we bring. So we try and, first of all, even if it's just for a few seconds, to like notice our feet and our breathing and just check in that we're willing to step in and we're feeling like, you know, able to be calm. And then when we step in, it's really important to remember the humanity of all, so that everyone's got human needs, and this situation, each person has different needs they're trying to meet. And then the E is that to give empathy before education. So that's really recognising that no views or information or opinions going to be heard at the point where people are like got a lot of energy or there's aggression or fear or anything going on. So it's like really putting first in there listening and giving empathy. That's the most important thing, and seeing the energy calm down and everyone be safe. And then the A is about asking first. So if you are wanting to kind of like, there's that temptation to start to explain what this is all about and why it's such an emergency, and we all feel that, is to see when that has calmed down and still to ask. So it's kind of saying, how would you feel about maybe hearing what this is about, or are you interested, something like that, and being willing to hear a no. So if people really like, no, I don't want to know about this, you probably won't be heard, and so that's kind of your call what to do. And it feels awkward asking, but that sort of seeming to be working. And then the last thing of this BREATHE acronym is to kind of, after that, it can be really quite a big thing for your body to take on in your system. You might feel quite shaky and you might need some support. So it's afterwards to like find someone to debrief with and feel your breath again, and maybe notice the trees in the sky, and sort of at both ends of it, and realise it can, even though you're not the one involved, it can be quite a big deal to do this and make sure you feel okay with it. And hearing what you were saying, as hopefully the movement gets more awareness of this biases that exist and want to kind of support people who might be experiencing that. That feels really important. And so obviously bringing this energy in is great. And one example might be if there's a situation with maybe a policeman and someone who seems to be unfairly being targeted, you could, for example, have two people step in, and one really gives support to the police or the person with sort of taking the action, and the other person really makes sure the other person's feeling supported, so they're both getting support, and maybe like even stand between them. And then once things have calmed down, it's much easier to then to talk about the strategy or whether it's fair or what you're going to do next. But yeah, just remembering that non-violence and how important it is to all of us.
I was thinking that it might be important to let people know that they have a lot more power than they might think in situations. So I heard a story of there was a person who was vulnerable to police violence, or having an interaction with a policeman, and they wanted to get away. They didn't want to be arrested, but the policeman kept pressing, and then somebody went in and said, are you arresting this person? And the policeman said no, and they said, are you free to go? And they said yes, and so they said, okay, go.
That sounds really important, to make sure that we know that we have got this collective power, and that we can be on the watching for people that are maybe more vulnerable or don't know that there's choices, and that we can step in, and imagining that if we know how to do it, so we know to step in with non-violence, but we can still be strong, but coming from a place of empathy rather than trying to educate somebody. It seems like it would be a great thing for the movement to have more people willing and able to do that. Sounds